How could it not be shocking? He saw Inda lying on the bed, facing up, with her mouth and eyes open. Her body was cold and stiff. Yes, Inda was found lifeless on the morning of September 12, 2023. Hello friends. How are you today? I hope you're all healthy and successful. Before we begin the story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends. This story is based on true events, taken from news reports that have been widely circulated and published by various media outlets, which we present here as a narrative. Let's begin the story. This sad story comes from South Sumatra. There lived a man named Purnomo, who at the time was 50 years old. Purnomo was born and raised in South Sumatra, Indonesia. In his journey of love, Purnomo, who worked as a driver, married a woman he loved deeply. From their marriage, they were blessed with 3 sons. The family life of Purnomo and his wife changed dramatically in 2013 when his wife suggested adopting a child. This decision was made because she wanted a daughter, and their 3 sons were already grown. Purnomo's wife longed for the feeling of being a mother to a baby again. Her age was another factor, as she faced risks if she were to conceive again. Therefore, adoption seemed like the best option at the time. Amidst all the prayers and hopes, good news finally arrived. A close relative of Purnomo informed him that there were parents willing to give their child up for adoption. The baby's parents were from Java. In short, after completing all the administrative processes and other requirements, Purnomo and his wife officially welcomed a new family member. They named the baby girl Inda Rumana. Inda's presence brought new energy and hope to Purnomo's family. However, amidst this happiness, Purnomo's wife passed away. Her death was a heavy blow for Purnomo. Not only had he lost his beloved wife, but he also had to care for the baby girl. Since he couldn't raise her on his own, Purnomo entrusted Inda to her grandmother, his former mother-in-law. In 2018, Purnomo decided to remarry a woman named Ramini. By then, Inda was already 5 years old and still being cared for by her grandmother. In their new life together, Purnomo and Ramini felt lonely living just the 2 of them. Purnomo then decided to take Inda back, believing her presence would bring a special blessing to their family. Inda finally returned to her adoptive father, who by then had married her stepmother. When Purnomo took Inda back, she was already 11 years old. Inda grew up to be an obedient, well-behaved girl, just as Purnomo and Ramini had hoped. She lived her days with enthusiasm, alongside the man who had adopted her 11 years earlier. After school, Inda usually played with her friends and attended Quran recitation classes. She seemed to have adjusted to being away from her grandmother, who had raised her since childhood. However, everything changed that morning. On September 12, 2023, just 4 months after Inda returned to Purnomo. On that day, around 6 a.m., Ramini woke up and went straight to Inda's room. This was her daily routine, waking Inda up for school. She knocked on Inda's door once, but there was no answer. The second knock also received no response. Ramini then tried to open the door, but it was locked. Panicking, she immediately called for Purnomo, who was still in the bedroom. Ramini's frantic screams made Purnomo's heart race. He quickly got out of bed and rushed to Ramini, who was in a state of panic. After hearing Ramini's explanation, Purnomo went straight to Inda's room. He knocked repeatedly and banged on the door, but still no response came. Overcome with panic, Purnomo then forced the door open, breaking it completely. Inside the room, Purnomo was met with a heart-wrenching sight. He saw Inda lying on the bed, facing up, with her mouth and eyes open. Her body was already cold and stiff. Yes, Inda was found lifeless that morning, on September 12, 2023. Realizing what had happened, Purnomo, who loved Inda dearly, cried uncontrollably. He expressed his grief by screaming, wailing, and sobbing until he fainted. His cries could be heard by the neighbors around his house. Inda's sudden death shocked the people of Purwasari village. They couldn't believe that a cheerful and kind-hearted child like Inda had passed away. Purnomo revealed that Inda had taken her own life. The crowd that gathered at Purnomo's house attracted the attention of the police, who arrived after being notified by a local villager. At the time, the police, who inspected Inda's body, found several irregularities, including the unnatural position of Inda's body, which did not resemble someone who had died by suicide. To determine the exact cause of Inda's death, the police requested the family's permission to conduct a more thorough investigation. The results of the autopsy that were subsequently released revealed the cause of Inda's death. The police, who received and studied the results, immediately summoned Purnomo and Ramini for questioning regarding Inda's death. The police suspected that the perpetrator was someone close to Inda, but Purnomo vehemently denied this. He stated that he was the one who broke down Inda's door that morning when she was found lifeless in her room. After an intensive investigation, the mastermind behind Inda's death was finally uncovered. The police identified Purnomo and Ramini, Inda's adoptive parents, as the main suspects. All the details came to light during the interrogation and trial. The trial, held at the Seikayu District Court, began in December 2023, featuring both defendants, Ramini and Purnomo. Several witnesses were also presented in court. In her testimony, Ramini admitted that she was the one who took Inda's life on the night of September 11, 2023. That night, after Inda returned from Quran recitation class, she had been reprimanded by Ramini and Purnomo. The anger of Inda's adoptive parents was triggered by the discovery of adult content on Inda's cell phone, which allegedly showed a photo of Inda herself. The photo had gone viral and spread widely. Inda refuted these accusations, stating that she had never used her cell phone for inappropriate purposes. Moreover, the phone was only used in the house, and its use was strictly monitored by Ramini and Purnomo. That night, while Inda was being interrogated by Ramini and Purnomo, a close relative of the family, Febrianto, was also present. Febrianto tried to find out to whom the photos had been sent. At that time, he found only one number that was suspected of being the recipient of the adult content. However, when he attempted to contact that number, it was inactive, and the message sent had only one checkmark. Purnomo's rage that night culminated when he yelled at Inda to go into her room and sleep. After Inda went into her room, Purnomo took Febrianto home, which was only a 10-minute walk away. In short, after Purnomo dropped off Febrianto and returned home, he approached Ramini and said, "Baby, if that child brings shame, just take care of it." Ramini, shocked, of course refused her husband's command. However, this refusal led Purnomo to threaten her, saying, "Do you want it or not? If you don't, I'll divorce you." After receiving that threat, Ramini, frightened, finally gave in and accepted Purnomo's order. Purnomo suggested using a pillow to suffocate Inda's nose and mouth so it would be easier and quieter. Following this instruction, Ramini hurried to her room and grabbed the pillow she usually used for sleeping. While Ramini was preparing for her fatal action, Purnomo quickly left the house and went to a friend's house just to chat. Once she was ready, Ramini walked toward Inda's room, where she was sound asleep. Ramini approached Inda's body, pinned down her legs, and without hesitation, suffocated Inda's face with the pillow. Without mercy, Ramini held Inda's airway shut, even as the girl struggled desperately to free herself. After 5 minutes of being suffocated, Inda finally went limp and stopped moving. Not long after, she passed away. After successfully taking Inda's life, Ramini returned to her room, placed the pillow she had just used down, and then went back to Inda's room to stage the scene to make it look like Inda had died by suicide. Ramini grabbed a speaker and a clothes hanger. With the help of these two items, she tried to reach the ventilation in Inda's room to hook the door latch from the inside. Once successful, Ramini returned to her room and went to sleep. Not long after, Purnomo came home around 4 a.m. Before going to bed, Purnomo asked about the actions he had ordered, and Ramini simply replied, "Everything is taken care of." During the trial, Purnomo denied all of Ramini's statements. He claimed he had never instructed Ramini to take Inda's life. However, his testimony was in vain when other witnesses were presented. One witness, a neighbor named Juminga, stated that Purnomo usually only spent 1 to 2 hours at home, but on the night Inda was killed, he arrived home at 9 p.m. and did not leave until 4 a.m., which was unusual. Additionally, when Inda's body was first discovered by Purnomo, he appeared to be crying with feigned emotions, as there were no visible tears on his face. Meanwhile, Ramini was seen wandering around the house. At the end of the trial, Purnomo continued to insist that he was not involved in the events that led to Inda's death. However, the panel of judges stated that the actions of both defendants were particularly severe because they were committed against a child they had raised since she was little. Ultimately, the judges sentenced Purnomo and Ramini to life imprisonment. Hopefully, this verdict serves as a fitting punishment for the crimes they committed. What do you think about this case? What lessons can be learned from it? Write your answers in the comments, subscribe, and see you in the next case.